giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker. Still, boom! You see it down there. The Cowboys get the dub in Carolina. And we're going to talk about my top 5 standouts from the game. Yes, indeedy. Plus, prior to the game, a lot happened. One or another Cowboys starter goes on IR, so we'll briefly touch on that. Plus, we'll see where the Cowboys fall now in the pecking order in the draft. And that man is talking again, man. That man is talking again. But this time, I'm going to call out the big media. I'm going to call out the big media because we know how they like to dance when it comes to the Cowboys, and they are definitely singing and dancing that same tune, and I don't want you guys to panic. Well, some people actually want this to happen, but most sensible Cowboy fans understand you don't do this. So we'll talk about all that today. Good one lined up for you. Call in if you want. 351-999-3787. Cowboys Nation, a.k.a. Bomb Squad. What's up with you?
Bomb Squad!
How was everybody's weekend? I hope it was as good as mine. We got about 3 more games here, and we'll talk about it, I guess, throughout the week. It felt like, or it feels like, this was probably the last one where you felt really good going into it. For whatever reason, though, I'm not a bettor, but the Cowboys were underdogs going into Carolina. Listen, man, Carolina is a 3-10 team now, 3-11 team. Cowboys were 5-8. I just didn't see a world where the Carolina Panthers were favored. I don't care how competitive they were playing over the last 3 games, but Dallas won in there, handled business, walk out with a 30-10 victory. All right, or 30-14. I'm sorry, victory. Let's get to this roundup and get into the show, man. Let's do it.
It's time! It's time! It's time!
It's time.
It's time.
It is time for.
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you, Cowboys Nation. Like I said, before the game, there was a lot of nonsense that went down. The Cowboys lose another player. Now, this didn't happen in the game, but before the game, for the rest of the season. Trayvon Diggs suffered an injury in the Bengals game, and I guess he tried to gut through it and fight through it, and it comes out that he couldn't. This comes from Stephen Jones. Unfortunately, he had an incident in the game, and hats off to him for trying to play through it. I don't think he made it any worse. I don't know how he made it better. It's a cartilage issue that finally came loose on him. It's going to take a bit of time for him to get back, probably 8 months. So when the reports at first came out, we didn't get a time frame. It was, hey, Diggs is getting season-ending surgery. So we figured, okay, he's get something cleaned up, scoped, taken care of, whatever, so that he doesn't have to worry about it, or he gets a jump on it. But this is way more serious, in my opinion, than just a small surgery. This is something that's going to linger for 8 months, which means lots of rehab, which means possible pupless situation for Diggs. I mean, definitely heading into training camp. I'd be shocked if he's not on the pup list, which you probably will be, but even into the season. And that was the reports that was coming out on Saturday or Sunday earlier in the day was, hey, this could see Diggs miss some 2025 time. And I'm sitting here like, what? And to add insult to injury, it also came out that the Cowboys weren't happy with how Diggs attacked his rehab in the past. So this 2025 recovery and how he attacks it, I think is going to be very important for Diggs to show the brass that, you know, he can take this serious or what have you. Now, I know a lot of people, including Micah Parsons, came out, spoke up, and defended his guy. But, and I'm no reporter, but I have seen the evidence where a high-ranking official in the Cowboys disappointed in how Trayvon Diggs attacks rehab. And I'm using some words very lightly here, but I'll say this. He'll have to do a 180. I don't know what the extent of the injury is in regards to the type of surgery, and he did come back, obviously, right? This was his first year after the ACL, and he played X amount of games or whatever. But from how he attacks rehab, a very high-ranking official in that organization is going to need him to be a little bit better in how he attacks it. I don't know how he feel. I mean, he did put the cap, I guess, on Twitter, but he defended himself, which I totally understand. But hey, man, it's hard to ignore it when that guy is telling you need to be better in how we handle this rehab situation. So here's to Diggs attacking this a little better and coming back stronger, but I don't expect to see him till later in camp, right? Maybe not camp. We're talking 8 months, okay? So we're talking up until August, essentially. So maybe we won't see him until closer to when they come back to Dallas, but we got a long way to go. Hey, Tankathon folks, how we feeling about sitting at 14? Let's take a look real quick. Let's take a look. Come on up. We're going to pull up the Tankathon right here. The Dallas Cowboys right now are in this cluster of 5 teams sitting at 6 and 8. I got a feeling the next 3 weeks, this will jumble all over the place here. Dallas is about to play 3 teams. So this was the end of that kind of sweet spot, I think, for the Cowboys schedule, where you got some really easy opponents, right? The Giants, who are 2-12, right? They're number 1 overall. You played the Carolina Panthers. You even got the Bengals, who were not playing good football. So now it's going into the playoff contenders, going into the teams with winning records, 8-6, 12-2, 9-5, and each and every one of those opponents has something to play for. So the odds of you, I think you have a better chance of going 0-3 in this situation than going 3-0 or even 2-1. 1-2 seems to be the consensus pick, right? Where the Cowboys can look at beating the Washington football people, but they're going to have something to play for at the end. They have to win a lot of these games to get in the playoffs and then the seeding, right? You're talking about maybe 6 seed, 7 seed, who you're playing, whatever. But you're not getting the cakewalk. You're not, because you got coming up this Sunday night, Tampa Bay's playing for the division, right? They're trying to win the division. They're not just laying down. The Eagles are now playing for the number 1 seed. With the Detroit Lions losing, you'll see the Detroit Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles jockeying for number 1. So there's no laying down in Philly. You're going to Philly, by the way. And then you got the Washington football people who they can't afford to lose games here at the end of the season as they try to get in the playoffs. So this is going to be really interesting to see how the Cowboys finish this thing out. I'm still around the 6-11. It's kind of what we were talking about, 7-10 at the best. And I think 6-11, 7-10 is going to have you finish in the top 15. The Cowboys, I think, will get a top 15 pick. If they lose out here, you're talking closer to that top 10, maybe 11, 12, and depending what New Orleans does, possibly number 10. You know, we'll see if Chicago rips off, but I doubt it. But, you know, you could be staring at 11, 12, 13 range. But I feel like this is where the Cowboys are going to be. Anywhere between 11 and 15. And I see them being in that side of that top 15. So how are we feeling? Dallas needs to go 0-3, says Professor. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a struggle for them to go 0-3. I feel like there'll be heavy underdogs in all three, and rightfully so. These other three teams are better than them, in my opinion. The only one that, again, you could look at and say is the Washington football people, because you beat them in a ridiculous game on the road. So coming back to the crib, you would think they have a shot there. So we'll see about that. But I feel like they'll finish 6-11, 7-10. And we were talking about this for the last few weeks. The irony is that you could see the coach return and get an extension after a 6-11 or 7-10 season, which is wild because of the injuries and things like that and the team fighting and all that stuff, but didn't get that extension after the 12-5 seasons, right? So just a really weird spot to be in. Me personally, I'm ripping all the Band-Aids off. We moving forward. We're getting a different coach up in here. And the only coach that I would say, hey, stick around because they need to interview you to return is Mike Zimmer. That's it. That's the only one. But this is Jerry we're talking about. This is the Joneses we're talking about. They're more inclined to do something that makes them feel comfortable, right? Than go outside of their comfort box. And what feels comfortable right now and feels like Mike McCarthy. So we'll keep an eye on that. How confident am I that the Cowboys grab a weapon early in the draft? Pretty confident. I'll be shocked if they don't take a skill position in the top 3 rounds. And if we're talking top 2 rounds, still confident. I think what you're going to see is the Cowboys look at the Brock Hoffmans, the TJ Basses of the world, and you still got Nate Thomas returning, and they're going to probably look away from the offensive line, and they're going to, so that eliminates that position. I think in the top 2 rounds at the very least. You can go defensive line, right? I mean, we're getting into the draft talk, but it's almost impossible to look at your receiver position and your running back position and say, yeah, we will ignore that in the top of the draft, meaning first, second, third round. And you haven't taken a wide receiver higher than the 3rd round since CeeDee Lamb. And you only taken one skill position higher than what, the 5th? The 5th round? In that time frame? Jeez, that's crazy. Yeah, it was Jalen Tolbert. The rest of your skill position guys are 6th and 7th round picks. So they've got to turn that page, man, and switch that trend around and get you some skill position players higher in this draft. So we'll kind of obviously look at that a little bit more too as we move forward. But real quick before get out of here, we get more into draft talk. I want to bring this back to the Carolina game and talk about some of these standouts, because the first 3 guys that we're going to talk about, I wouldn't say they're in a tricky situation. I think there's only really one in a really tricky situation, but they're going to be up to get paid. And we heard, Steven talk about paying guys, which I don't get why the NFL Network or the big wigs even asked Steven about this type of stuff. I'm starting to think they don't pay attention yearly, and or they don't take the information that they're given or the data that they're given, the sound bites, the clips, whatever you want to call it, and say, oh, well, he's already talked about XYZ before. Nonetheless, and you know what I'm talking about here in a second, let's kind of get to my standouts. Starting off with Micah Parsons, because this will segue into exactly what I'm talking about here. But once again, Micah was a problem. He was a menace. He finished the game with 8 pressures, had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. And since he's returned from injury, he's had the most pressures in the NFL. That's since week 10. And he has 6 sacks on the season. And if you look at PFF, he's already around double digits. If you look at, standard stats, he's at 8.5. He'll hit that double-digit sack, and he'll be one of a handful of players to go 4 straight years to start his career with double-digit stats. He's already, I believe, 4th in league history, 4th fastest to record 2-sack games. I think he has the 4th most 2-sack games in his first 4 seasons of his career. So he's in company of the J.J. Watts I think LT's up there, Reggie and those guys are up there. So Micah just continues to be Micah. He's just a force. But prior to the game, Ian Rappaport spoke with Stephen Jones, and I thought the NFL Network played a dirty game with their headlining. I will let you guys decide for yourself. Take a listen to Ian Rappaport speaking on the possibility of trading Micah Parsons.
Let's sum it all up for the Dallas Cowboys. Rich, it has not been the season that they've wanted, obviously. And I talked to Cowboys executive Stephen Jones earlier this week about that. And he told me what they're going to do philosophically this offseason is rethink some things about how they put this team together, specifically paying players at the top end of their position, mainly because a lot of those players have been injured, like Dak Prescott. So then I said, what about Micah Parsons, who's doing a huge extension this offseason? Stephen Jones didn't exactly close the door to a trade, but was interesting. He said, obviously, we're all in on CD and Dak. After that, you shape things, including Micah. But Micah's a great player. You don't do well in this league by letting great players leave the house.
I don't know, Jim. He didn't exactly. Ian Rappaport dead wrong for this. And so is NFL Network, because you see that right there? Cowboys haven't ruled out trading linebacker Micah Parsons as contract talks on. This is dirty, but this is the Cowboys. I don't know, Jim. He didn't quite exactly rule out. What you failed to include there is Stephen Jones saying, and kind of just glossing over the end of that there, you don't let those players leave. What you failed to include there, Ian Rappaport, was, I don't see a scenario where Micah Parsons is not wearing a star on his helmet. Mr. Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, big wigs, you're not paying attention. The Cowboys don't trade that type of player. They don't let that type of guy walk, especially when it comes to their first contract. But if you put that, I don't know, Jimmy didn't quite rule it out, and you put that headline out, oh, brother, you're going to get clicks. You're going to get me putting this out there, but this is me exposing them. You're going to get all the clicks to your article and the clips going around, and it's going to sound amazing. I don't know, Jim. And they're not trading Micah Parsons. They're going to sign him. That's what they do. In fact, and maybe this is just them shilling and starting the smear campaign, because we know how they do. But in fact, it's not their best guys. That's the problem. It's not. When you pay their best guys, those top of the market, it's because they're all pro type of guys. It's everything else underneath. Ian? They never talk about Michael Gallup. They never talk about extending Malik Hooker for no damn reason at all. You didn't have to do that. They never talk about trading Amari Cooper for peanuts. They never talk about tagging Tony Pollard and Dalton Schultz. It's $20 million. Jalen Smith, Ezekiel Elliott, Terrence Steele. You could argue Zeke is probably the only top of the market guy at the time. And the reason why that is scrutinized for what it is, because A, the position, and you paid him 2 years ahead of time where you didn't have to, at a position where you should have known, hey man, let's go ahead and rock this thing out, and then we will revisit later. But you want to try to make me believe they're going to trade what's probably going to be a 4-time All-Pro. It might not be first team this year, but we'll see how this thing finishes. Stop. So you can't fool my type of fan. You might be able to fool these casual, low-hanging fruit fans, but you're not going to fool me. And this isn't me putting the cape on for Steven. I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like his father. But I won't let them try to make this something that it isn't, though. As much as I don't like the Joneses, I don't like the big media either, because they do things like this. It's quite annoying. And they asked Micah Parsons about the trade talk, which some goofy reporter after the game, hey, Micah, speaking of contracts, it was a report that came out that they're thinking about trading you. Dirty. That's dirty. But anyway, here's Micah's response. I thought he handled it well.
You mentioned guys playing for contracts. You're in a similar situation right now. There was a report this morning that the organization hasn't ruled out potentially trading you in the offseason. When you hear conversations like that, does that motivate you to go out and do what you did today and show, hey, keep me around?
Nah, I understand how that business side goes. Listen, no hard feelings in this business. Whether I'm here or anywhere else, obviously I stayed how I wanted to be here. But, at the end of the day, I understand the business side. And, I put in a lot of work. I play hard, too. So, obviously, if sides can't, agree to those type of things, that happens like that. But, I'm just happy to be here. And I'm going to just keep playing hard while I'm here. And if I'm here for the next 5-6 years, I'm going to keep playing hard then, too. So, it ain't really nothing going to make a difference. Mike's going to play hard.
Shouts out to Micah for handling that. And I'm glad the question kind of lingered a bit. Because if you look at it initially, when he brought up, well, what do you think about reports of trades? Micah, he's like, he wanted to probably smack the shit out of the reporter, but he gathered himself and he responded with the mature answer right there. But that's just a goofy question to ask right there. And here's why. Because he didn't ask the question with the added context of, hey, there's a report that came out that said that the Cowboys haven't ruled out trading you, but your general manager said he does not see a scenario where you're not wearing the star, right? They're trying to get him, right? Hey, man, the Cowboys talking about trading you. What you think? It's dirty. That's dirty. I don't know who the reporter was. Maybe it might have been a Panthers guy. I would love to know if it was a guy on the beat and who that guy was. But that's dirty business, man. You blindside him because I bet he didn't know that was said. And he just came out of a victory. A game where, in a stretch of the season where Micah promised the fans that we're going to finish strong. We're going to try to make the playoffs on this. So he's got that. He's feeling great. And you hit him with that. What do you get from that? Besides trying to catch him off guard for a soundbite. That's what you're trying to do. If you were a thorough reporter, so that was Mike Leslie. And that makes sense. Let me just leave it at that. And if that was Mike Leslie, that sucks, bro. You know why? Because Mike Leslie is at the Star. He's in the locker room. He could have easily pulled Micah to the side. Hey, man, can I get a one-on-one with you, man? Give me 5 minutes for my next article or report. Hey, this is what they're saying. That way you can get and it ain't even got to be today. It could be yesterday could be the day when things are calmed down. He sees what's going on. He gets the full extent, or you give him the full extent of what's happening. But you play a dirty little game. And you wonder why they don't want to get, and you wonder why players want to do their own thing. So funny if it was Mike Leslie. Micah had talked about how maybe moving forward, he was thinking about getting, having on one of the reporters on his podcast. And Mike sat up and said, oh, what about me? Micah said, nah, I'm good. This is why I don't blame the players for using their voice via social media and podcasts or whatever. Yeah, for us fans who aren't, accustomed to this, definitely the boomer fans, the older fans, it may seem like an annoyance to you. But you got to understand, these players are trying to tell their story their way or give their thoughts on a specific thing their way, because these reporters are going to they're trying to set you up. They're not doing anything out of the goodness of their heart. They're trying to get the best soundbite for their report. So they're doing their job in a sense. So that's why media training is important. That's why having a circle that, has been around the block with this type of stuff is important for sure. But not everybody is equipped that way. Not everybody learns that fast. But that's just dirty, bro. That's just dirty. But anyway, Cowboys Nation, that's my spiel on the whole situation. I thought big wig networks, was dirty. And if that was Mike Leslie, even our own beat reporters thought that was dirty as well. Yep. Speaking of players that are going to be up for pay, Osa Digizua, another stellar performance. 5 quarterback pressures, had a sack fumble to start the half. We were at halftime talking about, okay, Cowboys, third quarter is not your greatest quarter, but the Bengals game, your offense came out and went down and scored a touchdown. Can the defense do what the offense did the week before? Right away. Osa whoops his guy on the inside, gets the strip sack, Golston recovers it, and they score 14 points in that third quarter, surrender 0 touchdowns, and the game was pretty much over. Osa was a force, man. Finished with 4 tackles, 3 stops, that sack fumble. And we've been talking about Osa for a while now, for a good while, about how he is playing his way into a very generous contract, a deserved one. What we wanted to see, and really for the last 3 seasons, was he's had this inability to maintain his production in that second half of the season. We're seeing an uptick in that production, right? We're no longer seeing Osa kind of level off or his play kind of disintegrate towards the end of the season. But he falls into that same category we talked about, and really to a greater extent of Golston, right? We were talking about how, I almost said Coach Stephen Jones, how Stephen Jones brought up Chauncey Golston as, man, I hate this for us because he's playing well in the final year and da-da-da-da. Golston really is on the lower level of that. And when I mean lower level, I'm talking about they're probably going to, I don't know, should we pay him $5 million? So that might be too much. That's the lower level. Osa's the big one. Osa, and we've said this for a long time here, he was already in line for a big payday because he's a pass rushing 3-tech in a league that values pass rushing 3-techs. Well, now he's performing at higher than just your above average player. He's performing at the top of the game. And I haven't looked at the defensive tackle free agency market, but I would prematurely, because I haven't looked, say that Osa Digizua will finish in the top 3 when it comes to contracts. Will the Cowboys be the ones, though? Right? They're in, and we brought this up. They are in a very tricky situation because if you don't re-sign Osa, you are now left, as we said, with Mozzie Smith and Denzel Daxon as your only defensive tackles moving forward. If you sign Osa, you're likely signing him at the top or near the top of the defensive tackle market. And he gets your bag, Osa. But this is kind of where the Cowboys stand. And to round out those guys, man, Rico Dowdle, another guy in line to get a legitimate payday. He makes it 3 in a row. Proud of Rico's mental fortitude this year. Honestly, the last 2 seasons. Let me say that. I think he has handled this extremely well. There's times where Rico could have showed his frustration earlier in the season. And he just kept saying, man, it's about rhythm. It's about, me getting opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. He did nothing to throw his teammates under the bus, his coaches under the bus, his offensive line under the bus, none of that stuff. He just said, hey, man, we just got to keep going. When he had all the opportunity and rightfulness to be frustrated. But anyway, he makes it 3 in a row with 100 yards. We did our pregame show and we said, our underdog fantasy pick'ems and the over or the higher lower was 82.5. I said, go and smash the higher. This is arguably the worst run defense I've studied on film. And we've played some pretty bad ones the last 3 weeks. 3 of, not the greatest run defense. The Giants, the Bengals, and the Panthers, and they were among the worst. And as long as they didn't go away from Rico, he could easily have 100 plus yards. This 149 is what he should have had last week, but that's a whole different story. Maybe you win a game. Finished averaging 6 yards per carry. I want to say this is like the third game in a row he's averaged over 5 yards per carry. And he did so only having his longest run of 12 yards. So that's impressive that he's just able to continue to just, hammer the Panthers at a quality clip per tote. He's only 120 yards away from 1,000 yards, which is huge for his free agency. And like I've said over the last 3 weeks, ignore the who, because I understand they have not played the greatest of run defenses or whatever. I'm watching the how Rico is running, and he just looks like a completely different player in the how. And that's going to translate, I think, when he gets to free agency. I think teams are going to see, it's not just, oh yeah, he's putting up numbers. It's not against the greatest of defenses. It's look how he's running. Look how he's making guys miss. The toughness that's always been there for Rico is shining bright in my opinion. And I don't think he's playing himself into some measly $1.5 million contract. We talked about $3.5 million. That could be up if he continues this, especially going up against the defenses you're about to go up against, sans the 49ers. But Todd Bowles, Bucks defense. Now we're going to study them this week. We'll see, but that's usually a tough one. And then Philly, that's a tough defense to run on, right? So if he runs well against those guys and finishes 100 yards close to it, we'd like to see him get in the end zone a little bit more. But he's going to get to free agency, ladies and gentlemen. And the player I comped him to for his situation is DeAndre Swift. I've talked to you guys about how this running back free agency class is night and day compared to last year. The free agency class in 2024 was one of the best we've seen in a long, long time at the running back position. Not the case this year. Rico could arguably hit free agency and lead or be among the leaders in yards of free agent running backs with not a lot of carries. Now, I don't know if teams will do the homework of, hey, man, 8 years prior, he's been a hurt guy every single year, if it would matter or not. But if I'm his team, I try to steer away from that and say, hey, look what we did here. And the reason why I comp him to DeAndre Swift was a very similar guy who was drafted much higher, though. But he was underwhelming in production. He was an injured guy, but he had a career year in Philly, and he turned that into a 3-year, $24 million contract in Chicago. The Dallas is not touching that. I know a lot of our thought process is, well, let's re-sign Rico and draft a running back. But we have to look at the other side here. If I'm Rico's team, and I highly doubt Rico Dowdle's team is going to try to take some hometown discount. What's going to happen? Stephen Jones is going to go into the meeting room prior to the season being prior to free agency starting, because they get first at bat, and he's going to try to lowball and get a very team friendly deal, $2.5 million, maybe 3 tops, right? Type of situation. And Rico's team is going to say, I appreciate it. We'll think about it. We want to hit the open market. Why wouldn't Rico want to hit the open market? Why on God's green earth would Rico Dowdle, and who knows who's going to be the coach here, say, I'm going to return to a franchise that has shown they will play politics with my ass. They have shown I can look good one week and they will play their guy the next week. Rico don't come off to me as I'm bleeding silver and blue, get the Dallas Cowboys star tatted on me. Nah. He plays running back. He's been injured most of his career. He's 27 years old. This is his probably one and only shot to get the bag. If I'm Rico, if I'm his team, I'm hitting free agency, I'm hitting the market, and I want to see if I can get the most money possible, and I don't think it'll be here in Dallas. So just another one of those situations where, unfortunately for Dallas, he's playing his best ball of his life, on the final year of his deal, heading into a contract with no restricted free agency, none of that. And he could be moving forward. Now, fortunately for Dallas, it is at a position that is the most replaceable position in the National Football League, in my opinion. So, I know it. Look, take a step back and say, man, look, bring Rico Dowdle back, draft running back. Listen, I ain't gonna fight you on it, but at what cost? At what cost, right? Because I think there are a lot of Rico Dowdles in this league. I still want to try to upgrade the position. Now, you want to tandem with somebody, whatever. So if you're looking at paying a guy like him upwards of $8 million per, I would love to take that and go get me a dude. But that's how I think. And that ain't a knock on Rico, because we can go get that somewhere else from somebody. Some team will do it. But I want to go get a dude. Wherever you want to put that position, whether it's O-line, D-line, safety, receiver, whatever. I want to take that $8 million and put it in a pile that may cost me $15 million to get a dude. That's all I'm saying. And then Maris Leofau. Man, or not Maris Leofau. Let's talk about Maris since I'm here. We'll get to CD. When we did our NFL draft coverage post-draft, and we did our rankings, right? Rating the draft, whatever. We did Maris Leofau long-term outlook. I think it was like 4 or 5 stars. I believe Maris Leofau would be the future at middle linebacker. I still believe that. He stepped in for DeMarvion Overshown. And I'm not saying he's Demo, right? But I don't think Maris's production is going to be that far off from a DeMarvion, because he's already shown he can rush the passer. I thought he had one of the turning point plays of the game early in there where he made Bryce Young fumble as they were heading down to score a touchdown. And to me, I don't think that's just some one-off. I think Leofau plays like a playmaker. I do. I think he plays with his hair on fire. He gets downhill. He can, when we looked at the college film, we talked about how, he fills those gaps and he meets the running back at the hole and he just thumps him. And when he blitzes, he's tough to deal with. I think Maris Leofau has a really bright future with the Cowboys. And, he tied for the lead in tackles in this game. And I think he's showing you, or he has a chance to show you as the season ends here, that you're in good hands, Allstate, with me here. I really wanted to see Maris Leofau and DeMarvion Overshown next year. Probably not going to happen. And if it does happen, you might not see the best of Demo because of his situation. But at least we know, at least me personally, at least I think Maris Leofau can be a guy where you say, okay, we do got to attack the linebacker position, but we got a dude. We got a guy that we think can be a dude at the very least. And I thought he played his ass off in this game. And I think he'll continue to be a guy that not quite ready to go core 4 type, right? The Demos and at one point D-Law and Micahs of the world, but a very, very important key role player for this team that you need. You need to have glue guys like that. And I think Leofau could be one of those dudes for the foreseeable future. No doubt about it. And now finally, CD Lamb. You could argue these were the 5 standouts, but CD Lamb, man, I think he's gaining a ton of toughness points, right? Ton of toughness points. Since that Falcons game, he's been dealing with that shoulder injury, and I'm pretty sure they're giving him great shots. But, man, you just saw it in this Panthers game. It felt like every catch, he was getting up and just wincing from that shoulder. And half of those damn catches or attempts were because Cooper Rush was like, hey, CD, go make the most difficult catch possible or catch this hospital ball. It was really rough for a good bit. But they spammed Lamb, man. He's the only receiver to have there was only one other receiver to have more than 1 reception, Brandon Cooks, who had 3. But he had 13 targets, 9 receptions, $113 in that touchdown. He was the guy at the receiving position, as he should be. And another 1,000-yard season. Only the second player in Cowboys franchise history to have 4 1,000-yard seasons in a row. Michael Irvin obviously being the other one. And, well on his way to possibly, I don't know, I got to look, but possibly another all-pro year. This is what I mean. Like, it's not your all pro type dudes. Steven. I digress. But CeeDee Lamb just played his, back-to-back weeks. Let me just say that. Where CeeDee Lamb, or 3 weeks, whatever it's been, where CeeDee Lamb has showed you he's like that. That's all I'm going to say about that. And he's gaining a lot of toughness points fighting through the shoulder. He will be getting shoulder surgery probably in the offseason to clean this thing up. No doubt about it. So there are my 5 standouts from yesterday. Micah Parsons, Osa Digizua, Rico Dowdle, 3 guys that's finna get paid this offseason. CeeDee Lamb and Maris Leafau. How we feeling? Foxtradamus said Rush throwing 12-6 curveballs, trying to get in a hot starting pitcher market. Boy, so many lollipop throws in that damn game. Jalen Brooks need to go. What happened? Needs more targets? Nah. Don't do that. No. Jalen Brooks is who he is. This is what we got to stop doing, Cowboys Nation. We always overvalue these guys. Jalen Brooks, don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Who was that? Who said that? Jonathan Watson, don't do this to yourself, sir. We're going to get into the off season. Oh, see, this is why we don't need to. We got Jalen Brooks. Stop it. Dre said the O-line, bruh. Yeah, I can't wait to go watch the film. Usually with the offensive line, I don't really talk about them much right after because I like to watch the film. Tomorrow we'll break down some plays as we usually do. But I did take a peek. I wanted to look at Tyler Guyton because what a weird situation, right? Like Tyler Guyton. So Tyler Guyton didn't start, but he wasn't inactive, but he played. But according to some people, he's not benched. I'm like, wait a minute now. This doesn't add up to me, right? And I've talked to my guy, right? Pat came on Scientific Method, says, well, he's dealing with a lot of injuries, like 3-4 injuries. They just don't want to put him out there while he's trying to learn and fight through these injuries. Well, then don't put him out there at all. That's how I look at it. If he's healthy enough to go be on special teams and then be the backup tackle, he's healthy enough to play. Played 67 snaps, including special teams. So I said, well, let me go watch Tyler Guyton. First of all, he was a left tackle on all 3 of the touchdowns. And if you gave it a grade effort or grade for the play, A+. He was dominant on those 3 touchdown plays. And also went and looked at some of the run plays as well. Tyler Guyton looked good. I mean, I haven't finished the entirety of the game, but again, just a handful of plays I watched, but it looked like he was trending to one of his better games. So can't wait to go back and watch and really grade this offensive line. But really weird situation with Tyler Guyton because bless his heart, Chuma Edoga, he is what he is, man. You know, I think Tyler Guyton's better than Chuma Edoga. But if Tyler's truly hurt, well, let him rest. It's just a weird situation. I hope somebody asked Coach about it. Nobody asked him. So, y'all want to ask Micah Parsons about some Fugazi report, but y'all want to ask Coach, hey, Coach, I noticed Tyler Guyton has been a healthy benched player. Maybe don't throw the word benched out there because coaches don't. But why is Tyler Guyton not starting? You know what I mean? Somebody asked the question. I would like to know. I'd like to know. Creative Edge, I agree. He said many of these position rooms need to be overhauled. Wide receiver being one of them. 100%, man. I don't want us to kind of get into this because Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Smith Jalen Brooks caught a touchdown pass against the Carolina Panthers. That they need more XYZ. No. I'm with you. I'm overhauling this room. I actually talked about that with Foots yesterday as we were texting about the game. Overhaul this damn room. Yeah, this was your kind of your one shot if everybody was healthy to get through with Lamb and Cooks and Tolbert and Turpin, and you could have, done fine, sure. But the future, and if you go look at our kind of, we did the strengths and weaknesses of the room heading into the draft was that you don't have your future number two, right? Like you can go out and play right now and win or whatever, right? But you don't have the future number two. Well, that came to bite you in the ass when you lost your second best wide receiver on the team. Dre said Rico and Turpin will be the starting running backs next season. Now, I know I was joking a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, when I said, look, all the carries y'all giving Zeke, I get a Rico or I get a Turpin. I was tongue in cheek, tongue in cheek. But go look, Turpin only got two carries, but he got legitimate 2 running back carries and average 13 and a half yards per carry. I'm very big on, if I'm going to have a tandem, I like the tandem to complement itself. I know not every backfield is going to be that way, but I got a guy in Rico Dowdle who's not a home run threat. He's a tough guy. He can, obviously shown recently he can break off some 10, 11, 12-yard gains, but he's not really going to, break off a huge one or and now we out the gate, right? Turpin can. So, I would like to see a little bit more Turpin. If you're not going to run him on the jet sweeps, I think he can get some totes out the backfield. It doesn't have to be an A gap, right? Like you can get him on the outside, get him some pitches, some tosses or whatever. But it doesn't hurt you. It don't hurt you, man. We got Rome in the building. Shouts out to CFT in the building. Would you say Toxic? Of the guys who need to get paid, who do you think Dallas would tag? They love the tag dearly. It's a great question. I don't think it's Osa, because somebody had brought that up in the chat. They were like, can't they tag Osa? I'm like, yeah, that's $3 million though. So I don't think they'll tag Osa. I don't really see them using a tag on anybody, because you don't have that type of guy. Now you can say, well, Sky, neither was Tony Pollard, neither was Dalton Schultz or what have you. Sure, right? Tight end and running back at that time, and Tony Pollard is much better than Rico Dowdle, and the production was there. But you're talking about, I think, your top guys that are up for contracts right now, right? You're looking at the Osa Digizuwas, you're looking at the Jordan Lewises of the world, and you got some of the Golstons and whatnot. You're not tagging a Zach Martin or a I don't even think that even is possible because they got void years or what have you, but just pure unrestricted free agents. You're not going to tag J. Lou, because J. Lou is going to cost you upwards of $20 million on the tag. You're not going to tag Osa because he's going to cost you upwards of $20 million. So there's really nobody you can tag. You're not tagging Rico. If they tag Rico Dowdle, that might be the only one that you could argue for. But if they tag Rico Dowdle, that would be just as silly as when they tag Tony Pollard. So if you really look, I don't think there's really anybody worthy of the tag. And let's remember, the tag means all 20 million of those dollars go on your cap right now. There is no spreading it out. So I can't really think of a tag that makes sense. Come on, yeah, I mean, look at Professor O just dropped a running back tag, 13-6. No, not tagging Rico. And of course, the cornerback tag is going to cost you 20. So I don't see it. Is there tag anger? Is there anybody y'all think that's really worth the tag? I don't really see it. Tag anger is crazy though. Anybody y'all think is worth the tag? I'm not seeing it, but I know how that can. Everybody looks at everything differently. Some people value Rico Dowdle a little bit more than other people will value Rico Dowdle. Guru said at least Pollard was a home run Pro Bowler, but that's what I mean, right? Like Pollard at 10 million, you could say, okay, if I use him as a dual threat back, you can get 10 million worth, but they didn't even do that. But that Rico, that's just not the case, man. We'll get to that, Ruben. Ruben said I hear there are over 20 free agents, said close to 30. How many would you resign? We got our whole, and Ruben might be newish here. For those who have been sticking around, you know how we do in the off season. We have a lot of not segments, but a lot of series that we do, and one of them is taking a look at Cowboys free agents in hindsight. It'll be hindsight 2024, where we look at all of the not just free agents, we look at the entire group, each individual group, and talk about every player. And then we'll look at free agency and we'll look at Catboy criteria and all that stuff, man. You know, off season is usually one of my favorite times when it comes to team building, but the Cowboys have kind of sucked the life out of that because we don't really team build in the off season. But I still like to kind of look at it. Well, here's the problem with that, SOY. Deron Bland is not up for a contract. I'm sorry. Deron Bland is not a free agent. Deron Bland will be playing on his last year of his contract. I want to say Turpin is up. He signed a 3-year deal when he got signed from the UFL. So this would be the last of his deal. I'm not sure if he's a restricted though. I'd have to go look. No problem, Ruben. So Professor O, this is a fun one here. Professor O says special teams tag is 6.45 if they want to tag Turpin. So I would love if you could find this out for me. The Cowboys might do that. But Turpin's technically a wide receiver, right? If Turpin goes into free agency, does he go into he's restricted? Oh, well then that eliminates. Never mind, you can't even tag him. They'll restrict. They'll put the second round tender or third round tender on Turpin. So that doesn't even. So Turp's not even a guy we can even think about. What I was going to say was because he's a receiver, can you put a special teams tag on a receiver, or would that be like the Cowboys would have to say no, he's a special teams guy. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter. He's a restricted. So, and that's the other thing too. There's some interesting restricted free agents that'll probably be a show in of itself, right? Wanye Thomas, Marquise Bell, Kevontae Turpin, and Brock Hoffman, off the top of my head, are restricted free agents that the Cowboys will have to make decisions on. And when I say decisions, they can put the second round tender, third round, whatever it is, right? They'll tender these guys something and they'll be paid $2, $3, $4, whatever it is, $1 million. And if a team decides to sign them, they get that pick, right? If I'm them, I'm putting the lowest tender on all these guys. And if a team wants to get any of them, by all means, I will take your third round pick, whatever it may be. Maybe Turp, I'll put a second round tender on. Wouldn't mind paying Turp X amount of dollars. I think he's an X factor type of guy. But I think everybody else is a replacement level type of player. And I love Wanye Thomas, but if I can get a third, second round pick, whatever, fourth round pick for Wanye Thomas, I'm not turning that down. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of what I would do. But we'll look at all these guys. Here it is. Twyman said Turp, Wanye, Brock, and Marquise. Those arguably, I don't know that I've seen a restricted free agent class for the Cowboys where they'll have to make a decision like, you know, all four of these guys to retain or not. That'll be really interesting to see how they do it. I did see a super chat or two in here. Let me get to that right quick. Yeah, we don't watch them 304s drop. Oh, shouts out to B Bird. He in here too. B Bird dropped 2 and said, "Leave it to us to get last place in Take-a-thon." Let's pull up Take-a-thon. You know how I feel, man. I'm not really getting overly emotional about where the Cowboys fall here, because I personally think this is the least of their worries. It's the least of their. You could say, well, Sky, Tyler Guyton, Mozzie Smith, they haven't been great in the first round. Well, that's fair. They usually do well, especially when they're picking in the top 15. They hardly miss in the Will McClay era or top 20 if you want to go there. And they'll get a guy, man. I'm just not panicking or tripping over the Cowboys. As long as they're in the top 15, they'll be able to get a guy. And if they want to move up to get their guy, they can move up and get their guy. I said it before. I'll keep saying it. I'll say it throughout the offseason. More important than where the hell they fall in this draft is who's coaching this team, so the coaching hire, and what they elect to do in team building prior to the draft. If they strike out on those things, it doesn't matter. It does not matter who they pick. I hate to be that guy. Now we'll break it down. We'll look at the film. We'll talk about pros and cons. We'll rate the draft, and we'll do all that stuff. No doubt about it. Right? But my philosophy has always been, I'm going into free agent, or I'm going into the offseason to improve my team. using the offseason resources, not to maintain where I've been. And if the Cowboys could literally say, oh, well, we had the injuries, we'll be better because these guys will be back, so we don't really need to spend any money, just sign our guys, draft some rookies, and we'll be right back to double digits and competing in the playoffs. Probably right. But does anybody think that's going to be enough to get you over the hump in the playoffs when a lot of the competing teams will be doing exactly what I said, trying to improve and get better via the resources available in the offseason? Time and again, it has been proven that Dallas doesn't use that offseason to improve from the previous year, but they've quite literally said it. Hey, we just want to hang around, man. We want to hang around the rim. They usually are just doing things to hang around the rim or making up, being reactive to the things they should have done during the season, the previous season. So, I'm just not that upset about Dallas possibly falling in 11, 12, 13, 14 range. Just, it doesn't move me. It doesn't move. And I know I get the argument. Well, Sky, they don't ever do anything in free agency. They don't ever make trades. They don't ever. So we got to get that first overall pick to get a guy. I'm here to tell you right now, you could have pick 5. It's not going to be enough to get you over the hump. Don't fall for the BS. Rookies should not be picked and expected to be hump players. They shouldn't. You only get a Micah Parsons every so often, ladies and gentlemen. That was probably the only hump player type of guy. And I get it, Zach Martin, I think it was a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, whatever. I know, what's his name? LVE was an All-Pro his rookie year, but let's be real here. Micah, physically, tangibly, you can see the difference Micah Parsons made individually to this defense and for this team, right? As a rookie, that is hard to do and rely on. So I give a damn where they fall at. I'm not tripping about this draft order. Cowboys will be able to get a good player. It's hard. It's going to be hard to miss out on a good player in this draft, where they'll be picking. What they do before that is more important to me. And I'll keep reiterating that to a lot of Cowboy fans. And we don't whack them 3 or 4. Shouts out to Chris. He dropped 5 and said, would you be okay with McCarthy coming back if Mike McDaniel was a play caller? I appreciate the super chat. But I'm going to say this again. Mike McCarthy is not going to give up play calling. He's not going to give up play calling duties. If he does that, we don't whack them 3 or 4s. If he does that bomb squad, I'll come right on here and say, hey, right? They're wrong. They're wrong with that one. But I don't foresee that happening. Mike came out, I want to say this year, and said something along the lines, paraphrasing, I will never do that again. Meaning, Kellen Moore's philosophy, my philosophy, and trying to make that, he didn't like that. He hated that. To the point of he was low-key calling out his guy, and not even low-key, high-key calling out his guy in pressers. Mike McDaniel's offense, Mike McCarthy's offense, we're talking water and oil here. That don't mix. What you're most likely to see, if Mike McCarthy's retained, is Brian Schottenheimer's retained, and this is what you're going to get as an offense. You would hope, again, I'm going to go into the offseason blindly hoping, or really not blindly, maybe with one patch on my eye, hoping that they improve schematically. They add on the things they do well, and I say that every year, right? But if you're looking for a different scheme and play caller, you're looking for a different head coach. I'm seeing a lot of people ask these questions to whether it be creators or media members of, well, what about if McCarthy returns and there's a different play caller? And what makes you think that's going to happen, right? And if you say, well, because Jerry the Joneses will tell them to, Well, we're right back where we started. What make you think that's okay? I don't see it, bro. Well, we'd love to have you back, Mike. But I do believe that this team, this organization would be much better with. No! Mike's going to say, I'm out. I'll go coach Chicago. I'll go coach the Jets. I'll go coach Las Vegas. Because think about it. It ain't like Mike is getting a bat. Like, Mike is bottom of the barrel in coaching salary. Nah, bro. I don't even think Mike McCarthy would want to come back to nothing like that. So, who's coming in here and he's giving up play quality to this for? I don't see it. The best Jerry accent, I just be messing around, is bar none Jeff Kavanaugh. Unbelievable. Michael H., we kind of went over this earlier. He said, if you're going to hit anyone with a franchise tag, Deron Bland's a perfect candidate. Deron Bland's not an unrestricted free agent. Deron Bland is going into his last year of his contract, so you cannot tag him. You can extend him after this season, but you cannot tag him. You only can tag an unrestricted free agent. There's also the transition tag. Hey, Lawrence said, I started this play calling shit, and it's the thanks I get. Man, Mike McCarthy got to let that thing go, which means we got to let him go. Shouts out to my bro, Foots, the king of the building, I see. Foots, I got to reach out to you, bro. We got to wrap. We got some things to talk about. Shouts out to the Foots, Law, Dak Attack, and John Machota got this thing, Cowboys Collective, they're doing. Make sure y'all go support that as well. But I don't think that's going to stop me and Foots from doing our annual draft coverage, which I look forward to that. But Foots, yeah, we got to wrap, bro. I might hit you up after this. Attacking. I know I haven't gotten into draft just yet because I know how I feel. I like to get through the season or whatever. But once we get into draft season, it's going to be fun and better. I always try to make draft season better than the previous season. It's going to be tough to outdo ourselves from the draft show that we did last year. But you know me. We're going to go hard to try to do it. All right, let me refresh this real quick. Man, it's been fun talking to y'all in the chat today. We good on the supers. We good on the supers. Oh, yeah, you're right. Kelly K9 definitely does okay, so I was thinking technically I know he's a creator, but yes, Kelly K9's probably number one when it comes to the Jerry impersonations. But Jeff good though, bro. Jeff really good at it. He even does the I do and I does, and he got the mannerisms down so good, but so do Kelly K9. You're right. You're right about that. If you don't know who he is, go on Twitter. He's usually on Twitter doing his thing. I gotta get better on Twitter, man. I'd rather be here, you know. I don't even like to argue on Twitter no more. Come on over. Let's rap on here. Creative Edge Shop said, why does it feel like this offseason is going to be more of the same with the front office and team? Well, Creative Edge Shop, because Stephen Jones said it's going to be like 2024. And we've seen them kind of do the same things over and over. But your general manager, your real one, did come out and say, we're going to do the same things that we did in 2024 because we're strapped, essentially. And we got to pay this person and that person and the same thing. So, you know, I'd be shocked if they go a different way. I'll still present possible solutions, even if they go that same cheap route, because we're trying to find the best cheap guys and to help you out. This guy, Fogg said I'm too grown for the BS. Nah, I get caught up in it sometimes, Fogg. But since I've done this full time, I've had to kind of just reel myself back a little bit, man. Because especially now, social media, I tell you guys a lot. I think it exposes who people really are anyway. They just can hide behind the keyboard and hide behind whatever, the internet or what have you, man. There's some vile people on this here internet. You don't know how to you just can't have a conversation no more. Can't just disagree no more on social media. It goes so left, so fast, it's so disrespectful. And I'm just like, nah. But hey, all y'all people that do that, keep doing it, because I be looking, we don't even have the conversation, but I see how you interact with somebody else. Block. Oh, no. You will not bring that negativity over here, sir. You will not bring that disrespect over here, sir. Pace. It gets bad, man. Like, Facebook was the first one where it's like, whoa, y'all getting weird over here, so I'm bye. But we're starting to see that type of behavior now everywhere. Everywhere. Cinema recap. Sky, when that's being cheap won a football team a ring? It doesn't. It's going to take an act of God. And Jerry done sold his soul to the devil. So it's going to take more than that. Zeus, are you there? We going to need the ancient gods. Yeah. Oh, man, congratulations, Al. He said he took a second at the poker table, man. Where at? Are you in DFW? Trying to get my tournament game up, man. Trying to get more of a cash player, but I'm trying to get my tournament game up. What are you talking about, Dallas Sports 97? That was random. All right, one more refresh here. We get up out of here. Boom. Hey, do me a favor on your way out, hit that like button, if you will. Possibly this week, if not early next week. I keep telling you all this, but we'll have some more news for you. Stay tuned to that. Lock in tomorrow. We'll be back taking a look at some of my favorite or best plays. And honestly, we might just look at the run game again. When Rico Dowdle goes for $149 and it really was no run, no big run, to me, that shows you there was some gritty, tough runs, offensive line moving guys. And again, I know it was against the Carolina Panthers, but kind of want to take a look. Kind of want to take a look at that run game again. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll take a look at some good passing plays there. But the run game really stood out the most to me. So make sure you guys come on back tomorrow morning. With that said, I'm gonna press this button, man.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn
button. It's not that kind of tease, AG. I'm not. Yes, me and Vosh have been like, yo, we're gonna get, and that's still happening. But I'm talking about personally. I got you. I won't keep you on the ropes too long, man. We out of here though. Lay off. Peace.